The drama begins with the male lead, Xiao. He owns a gaming company. He gets into an accident on the road, so he calls the female lead, Xing Yun, who is an artistic developer in his company. When she arrives, she thinks, how did he get into an accident? She knocks on the car window, so Xiao gives her the car keys and says, park the car. Then he starts to leave. The girl whose car was involved in the accident with his follows him. Xing Yun stops her and says, you can talk to him about the accident. By then, Xiao has already left. Now the girl asks Xing Yun for Xiao's number, so she tells her, you can discuss it with me. After this, Xing Yun runs inside. The elevator was about to close, but Xiao stops it and lets her in. She asks him, why haven't you gone inside yet? But he doesn't say anything. She says, I've solved the car accident matter. He nods, so she says, next time, if something like this happens, call a male employee because I have less knowledge about cars. He says, it's easier to call you because you're closer. Now, Xing Yun is introduced, whose English name is Lucky, and Xiao hired her because of her name, Lucky. In the next scene, Xing Yun's teammates ask her to prepare a game proposal. She says, I think there are more talented people than me in the company, but her friend says Xiao will definitely like her proposal because she is the company's first employee. Xiao takes her along to every meeting. In the next scene, Xiao goes to a meeting with a CEO, and Xing Yun is with him. Now, the CEO says, if you can beat me in horse riding, I'll accept your condition. Now, Xiao wins, so the CEO says, I'll send the contract papers myself. In the next scene, Xing Yun takes out her draft to show Xiao for a proposal. Just then, Xiao saves her from stepping in front of a car. She thanks him, so he says, how can I let anything happen to my lucky charm? Now, Xiao says to her, I haven't dated anyone yet, so I won't get into a relationship until I find the right person. She says, getting into a relationship isn't that easy. Xing Yun's friend is checking in at the company in her place, so Xiao sees her and asks about Xing Yun. She has to tell him she went on an arranged date. Xing Yun arrives at a blind date set up by her mother. Her date's name is Chu Nan. Now, Xiao keeps calling her repeatedly, so she finally answers. First, he scolds her, then he says, come to work. Now, Xiao thinks, if Xing Yun starts dating, my lucky charm and hardworking employee will slip away from me. After this, Xing Yun sees a notice and thinks, if Xiao selects me for this proposal himself, I'll be happy. She starts smiling happily. Hearing her laughter, her colleagues come over and ask, why did you come back? She says, the boss called me to discuss work. So her friend says, the boss already left. Then, Xing Yun angrily calls Xiao and asks, where are you? He says, I'm about to come. She says, the employees told me that the work is already done, so did you lie to call me here? He says, are you angry because your date failed? So she says, my date went well, and now I'm in a relationship. In the next scene, Xiao dreams that Xing Yun resigned because of her relationship. He wakes up and, seeing Hayu sleeping beside him, kicks him and says, what are you doing here? Hayu is his friend. The next day, Xing Yun comes to the meeting to present her proposal. She tells everyone to take a break, so Xiao says, the break time will be deducted from the 30 minutes given by Xing Yun. She agrees. After the break, she says, only 3 people opened the game during the break, and that too for a short time. She says, I did market research and found that people prefer playing games more after a break, but since break time is short, most people don't get to play, and bad games also increase. So I suggest shortening my game. Now, everyone likes her game proposal. After the meeting, Xing Yun's colleague says, this audition was probably held to collect ideas. Then, Xing Yun starts criticizing Xiao, who is standing behind her and hears everything. He calls her to his office and says, say whatever you want openly. She says, that's not what I meant. Then she says, sorry. He says, if you leave the arts department, how will we handle this game project? Hearing this, she becomes happy. He tells her to improve her proposal further and instructs her not to take any leave for 3 months. Xing Yun agrees. In the next scene, Xiao's assistant asks him, which movie are we watching this month? He names Xing Yun's favorite movie. Now he asks Xing Yun, how is your relationship going? She says, Chunan was very interested in me at first, but later, he neither called nor messaged. He texts Chunan from Xing Yun's phone, and Chunan replies. Xing Yun becomes happy. Xiao thinks Xing Yun's date seems a bit too experienced. Xiao's colleagues are talking about him when he arrives there. He sees Xing Yun going out with someone and asks his friend, is that her boyfriend? She says, yes. Xiao starts following them, but by then, they have already left. Xing Yun goes to watch a movie with Chunan. She says, "I'll finally enjoy a movie after a long time." He says, "Have you never been to the cinema before?" She says, "It's not like that." A past scene is shown. She had gone to watch movies with her boss many times, but she always had to stand in line to buy popcorn, and if Xiao didn't like the popcorn, she had to go back and get another one. In the present scene, Xing Yun is smiling while watching the movie. Then she sees that Chunan is asleep. She remembers that Xiao used to watch movies with her. Xiao's sister, Shenqing, who was waiting for him outside the house instead of picking him up from the airport, asks him, "Did you and Chunan break up?" She starts ignoring her words, so she says, "Why did you two break up? And do you still like him?" She says, "He is also responsible for this." She says, "Chunan's mom didn't like me. I was his wife and was raising a child that wasn't his, and Xiao is also responsible for this." In the next scene, Chunan apologizes to Xing Yun. "I fell asleep while watching the movie." She says, "Next time, we'll watch a movie that you like." He says, "I don't like movies, I like documentaries, which don't play in cinemas, so we'll have to watch them at home. Will you come to my place next time?" She says, "I've never watched a documentary before, so I'll definitely come." In the next scene, Xing Yun tells her friend, "I'm going to Chunan's house to watch a documentary." So her friend takes her shopping for undergarments because it's her first time going to Chunan's house, so she'll need them. There, Xing Yun bumps into Xiao. He says, "I didn't know my lucky charm liked this." In the next scene, she says, "Why don't you stop calling me Lucky Charm?" Now her friend says, she's going on a date with Chunan, that's why she's buying these things. He says she's going to Chunan's house. So she says she's just going to watch a documentary. In the next scene, Shenqing calls Xiao over. He tells Xing Yun to wait there and leaves. Now, Xing Yun and her friend see Xiao with another girl and walk away. Seeing Xiao leave, Shenqing says, "What is he looking at?" He says, "He's looking at Chunan's new girlfriend." Shenqing is shocked. Xing Yun and her friend assume Shenqing is Xiao's girlfriend. Her friend says he was single before. He's been acting like this ever since Xing Yun started a relationship. He thinks of ways to prevent Xing Yun from meeting Chunan. She says, "There's nothing like that." Her friend says, "Xiao is the fastest way to her dream. He keeps increasing her salary, so how could she dislike him?" She says, she's happy with just a boss-employee relationship and doesn't want anything more than that. In the next scene, Xing Yun arrives at Chunan's house, and his mom says, "Don't worry. After you marry Chunan, you can live in a separate house." Now, as they sit down for dinner, Chunan's mom tells Xing Yun, "Maintain a good diet because very thin girls face complications during pregnancy." Chunan's dad says, "After pregnancy, you should quit gaming and focus on raising the child." Chunan says she doesn't play games, she's an artistic developer. After this, Xiao calls Xing Yun for game-related ideas. She says, "I'll come over, send me the address." As Xing Yun gets ready to leave, Chunan's mom gives her a bracelet as a gift. Chunan sees Shenqing outside the house, so he takes her to a restaurant and asks, "Why are you here?" She says, "I came to see your girlfriend, the one you forgot me for." In the next scene, Xing Yun is unable to find Xiao's address. Then some people try to kidnap her, but she escapes and runs away. Later, Xing Yun calls Xiao and apologizes, "I can't come." He asks, "Are you still at Chunan's house?" She says, "I'm at the police station." Xiao rushes there. The police assume he is Xing Yun's boyfriend and scold him, "You shouldn't have let your girlfriend go alone at night like this." He apologizes. Now, he goes to Xing Yun and she hugs him, crying, "I can't believe I'm safe now." He comforts her. The police say Xing Yun was about to be kidnapped by human traffickers. They tell Xiao, "Don't let Xing Yun go alone at night." Xing Yun says, "He's not my boyfriend, he's my boss." The police officer says, "He was very worried about you, so maybe in the future you two will be in a relationship." Xing Yun's foot is injured, so he holds her as they go outside to check the CCTV. The officer says, Xing Yun is quite smart, so she was able to get help in time. He asks her, "Why didn't you take a taxi?" She says, "The driver had an urgent matter." Xiao gets angry at the driver, so she says, "It's not the driver's fault." Now, while leaving, Xiao is carrying Xing Yun. She says, "He's tough on the outside, but very soft on the inside." She praises him, so he says, "What's wrong with you today that you're talking so much?" She says, "I thought I was going to die today. I'm so lucky to have good parents, a good boss, and a good boyfriend." She tells him, "Chunan took me to meet his parents." In the next scene, she says, "Now I will really date Chunan." Hearing this, Xiao gets angry, puts her down, and says, "I ended up in this situation because of Chunan. If Chunan truly liked you, he wouldn't behave like this." She says, "Do you know Chunan?" He doesn't say anything. She remembers her friend's words and says, I only see him as my boss, and I will never like him. Xiao laughs and says, can't you see your own face in the dark saying things like this? Just then, Yu arrives. He says to Xing Yun, I'm the project manager and have been waiting for you at the golf club for a long time. She realizes that Xiao wasn't lying about the meeting. Seeing Xing Yun's face, Yu asks, what happened to you? Xiao says, she rejected a guy for the first time, so she got too excited. On the way, Yu says, we should hire an actor to promote our game, but Xiao refuses. Yu drops both of them outside Xing Yun's house. Xing Yun rings the doorbell outside her house because she forgot her keys today, but no one opens the door. She calls her parents. They say, we are out, so go to Chunan's house. Xiao asks her, what happened? She says, my mom is in the washroom, so it will take her time to open the door. You go home. Then she calls Chunan. He is with Shenqing. Shenqing says, pick up the call, but he doesn't. She says, you've been sitting silently for a while. What do you want? He says, I just want to sit with you a little longer. Shenqing gets angry and leaves. Xiao lets Xing Yun sit inside his house. She says, drop me at a hotel. He says, it's not safe to stay alone in a hotel. I'll drop you at Chunan's house. She says, maybe he's asleep, that's why he didn't answer my call. So can I stay at your place? Xiao takes her to his house. Xing Yun spills water, so he says, why are you so nervous? Is this your first time here? After that, he says to Xing Yun, apply medicine to your foot, but she can't apply it properly. So Xiao applies the medicine to her foot. She gets nervous and tightens her foot. He says, relax. She is still nervous. He says, I have experience in massages and I learned it for myself. Hearing this, Xing Yun is shocked. He says, don't tell anyone. Then he looks at her bracelet and asks, is this a gift from Chunan? She asks, how expensive do you think it is? He says, it's not expensive at all. Then he tries to remove Xing Yun's bracelet with soap, but it doesn't come off. After that, he puts soap on her face, so she starts putting soap on his head. After that, Xing Yun takes a shower. He brings a dress for her. She asks, are these your girlfriend's clothes? He says, mind your own business. She starts sleeping on the sofa. He says, I have a sleepwalking problem at night, so she covers herself tightly or goes to sleep in his room. He also tells her to drink milk. Now her friend tells her, you should judge your boyfriend's personality from his room. So she starts checking Xiao's room like that. He passes all the tests except for one, which is about women, because she thought Shenqing was his girlfriend. The next day, Xiao picks up the sleeping Xing Yun and stands her inside the closet saying, be quiet. Just then, Shenqing's son finds them in the closet and asks, what are you doing here? Now, Shenqing is smiling while looking at both of them. She recognizes Xing Yun and says, she is Chunan's girlfriend. She says, please don't misunderstand us. Then she says, Xing Yun has a boyfriend she met yesterday. Then what is she doing at another man's house? Xiao says, don't take out your anger elsewhere and make breakfast for Xing Yun. Xing Yun thinks, this child is their illegitimate son. She quickly finishes breakfast and is about to leave when Shenqing offers to drop her off and asks, does Chunan know you were here? She says, no, he didn't answer my call. Shenqing says, you were in such a difficult situation and he still didn't pick up your call? She says, he must have been resting at his parents' house. She says, her relationship with Chunan is stable, so you don't need to worry. Nothing will happen between you and Xiao. In the next scene, Xing Yun tells her friend, Xiao has a girlfriend and also an illegitimate son. She couldn't believe he would be like this. She sends it to the company's number through a bucket. Xiao replies to her, I also didn't think it would be like this. Now she goes to Xiao's room to apologize to him. Then she brings him coffee but accidentally spills it on his table. He says, go home. She thinks that maybe he is firing her from her job. She says, don't punish me this way for my mistake. He says, you're misunderstanding me. Just then, Xiao's meeting time arrives, so he leaves but forgets his laptop. She goes to give it to him. He says, I'm going to the tennis court, so I don't need it. Now Xiao tells her to work from home. She says, I will recover soon and come back. The next day, she works from home and gives Xiao updates over a video call. Just then, her mom tells her, Chunan is here. Her phone slips to the side, so Xiao also hears this. Now she goes to meet Chunan, and he asks about her injury. Just then, her dad starts scolding Chunan, so he apologizes to them. After dinner, she takes him to her room and says, I will tell you the reason for my injury. Xiao is still listening to their conversation. She asks him, don't you want to know where I spent the night? He says, I trust you. If something had happened between you and your boss, you wouldn't have gone on a blind date. Now he leaves. Now Xing Yun looks at her phone and is shocked because Xiao is still on the call. He says, I was working and also listening to your conversation with Chunan. Xing Yun says, why were you listening to our personal conversation? He says, you also shared my personal matters in the group chat. He says, Chunan is not interested in you. She says, that's not true. In the next scene, Xing Yun is at a wedding dress shop with her cousin. Her cousin tells her to try on a wedding dress too. When she tries on the dress, her cousin takes a picture of her and sends it to the first number on her phone, thinking it was Chunan's number. But it turns out to be Jia Kei's number, and he is shocked after seeing the picture. Now he comes to her, and then they have lunch together. He says, marriage is a very sensitive part of a relationship. He shows her the picture, so Xing Yun explains everything to him. The next day, Xing Yun was supposed to go to the outing location with Chunan, but her friend said, everyone has to go in the van. Now she was about to fall in the van, but Jia Kei caught her. She fell asleep while sitting, resting her head on Jia Kei's shoulder. When she woke up, Jia Kei was eating her lunch. Now Shen Qing also joined them on the outing and started acting like Jia Kei's girlfriend in front of everyone. So Jia Kei called her his sister in front of everyone, which shocked them all. Chunan arrived and Xing Yun introduced him to her friends. At that moment, Jia Kei and Shen Qing also came there. He asked, is Jia Kei your boss? She asked, do you know him? But both of them denied it. After that, everyone ate and later played games. Afterward, Xing Yun's friends got her ready and sent her to spend time with Chunan. Just then, Jia Kei also saw her dressed up like that. Xing Yun's friend asked Jia Kei, how is she looking? He said, very ugly. After that, Xing Yun changed and was watching TV. Then Chunan arrived and, seeing her, asked, you didn't dress up? She said, I changed because I wasn't comfortable. She asked him, did you feel bad? He said, no. He told her, you look good anyway. Now, both of them drank and then danced. When he came close to her, he thought of Shen Qing, so he moved aside and said, we should wait until the wedding. Xing Yun also agreed with him. Now, when she stepped outside, she felt someone behind her and kicked, but it was Jia Kei who caught her foot. Then they both sat and talked, where Jia Kei said, you and Chunan seem more like teammates than partners. He asked, do you like Chunan? She said, yes. Then he said, if a girl likes a man, she doesn't get close to another man. Now coming close to her, he asked, is your heartbeat racing? She lied. I didn't feel anything like that. As she started to turn away, he came closer and was about to kiss her. Xing Yun closed her eyes. Jia Kei laughed and said, if you loved Chunan, when I came close, you would have stopped me. Then Xing Yun fell into the water, and Jia Kei pulled her out. Now Xing Yun started crying, and Jia Kei followed her. On the other side, Chunan hugged Shen Qing. So, Jia Kei covered Xing Yun's eyes with his hands and only removed them after they left. Now, Shen Qing's son fell off the table, so she left with Chunan. Xing Yun asked him about it. He made an excuse about a family emergency. In the next scene, everyone went on an outing in the van. After that, they all went to play a game where Xing Yun became Jia Kei's teammate. Now he asked her, what is necessary to win? She said, running fast and shooting. He said, shooting too much can also be dangerous. Now they both played the game and Jia Kei taught her some tricks. In the end, 2 teams were left. Xing Yun was about to fall, so Jia Kei saved her, but fell himself. Then he pretended to be unconscious. Xing Yun got worried and said, call a doctor. Then he sat up. She said, I really thought something had happened to you. After that, Xing Yun wrote a wish about Chunan on a wishing cloth. The cloth wasn't tying properly, so Jia Kei helped her. But when he found out the wish was about Chunan, he let the cloth fall and said, we're getting late. After that, she asked Jia Kei about Chunan, and he said, he dropped Shen Qing home and then left. In the next scene, he asked her, if a crisis comes in your life, what will you do? She said, I can handle it. After that, she again fell asleep in the van on Jia Kei's shoulder. In the next scene, Jia Kei told Chunan, I won't let you hurt Xing Yun, Yan, Shen Qing, or anyone. In the next scene, Jia Kei was in the hospital with Shen Qing and had his laptop sent from the office. Now they sent Xing Yun to deliver his laptop. She went and called Jia Kei. He was talking to the doctor, so he didn't answer her call. When he saw her call, he called her back and then met her on the stairs. She asked him, why are you in the hospital? He told her. Now, Xing Yun gave him the laptop and was about to leave, so Jia Kei walked her to the taxi so she wouldn't see Chunan in the hospital. She was about to leave, but then she saw Chunan. She got out of the taxi and asked him, why are you here? He lied, my brother is admitted. She asked him, so what are you doing here? She told him, I came to give Jia Kei his laptop. In the next scene, Xing Yun was at a conference with Jia Kei, where a girl told her, Jia Kei is a very talented and brilliant person. She said, everything looks good from a distance. Jia Kei, who was sitting behind, heard this. He coughed to make his presence felt. So she said, Jia Kei is tough on the outside, but very soft on the inside. After that, he started taking her away. She asked him, what about the speech? He said, it got canceled. She became sad. So he said, if you want, I'll say yes to the speech. She became happy. Then she also took a picture with the professor. After that, they were having dinner outside. Xiao came to her and asked, "Why are you eating outside?" She said, "I can't eat among strangers." So Xiao ordered his dinner there as well. In the next scene, Chunan had brought Xing Yun to try on a wedding dress. Now she was trying on the wedding dress. Xiao called Shenqing, but she was very drunk. She told him, "Please come pick me up." Now Xiao called Chunan. Chunan's phone was with Xing Yun, so she answered the call. Now Xiao angrily said, "Choose between Shenqing and Xing Yun." She said, "Come to the hotel, then we'll talk." Now Chunan came to Xing Yun, and she told him about the hotel, so he left immediately. She also followed him and saw Chunan hugging Shenqing. Just then, Xiao put his umbrella in front of her eyes so she wouldn't feel more sad. He asked her, "Why did you come here?" She said, "I came to see my love end before my eyes." He said, "Chunan is not your first love." She asked him, "Did you already know about all this and ruin my first love for your sister?" He said, "I didn't want to hurt you." Now she started walking away, crying. Xiao told her to get in the car, but she refused and hit his car, saying, "I don't want to see you again." In the next scene, Xing Yun told Chunan that she wanted to break up. He said, "I'm sorry." She said, "I feel so relieved after breaking up because you weren't my first love, just my relationship partner." Saying this, she left. In the next scene, Xiao found out that Xing Yun had come to his office, so he called her to his office. Xing Yun talked about work and was about to leave, but he said, "Don't mix your personal and professional life." She said, "I won't," and she left. In the next scene, he asked her for coffee, so she deliberately put salt in it. He asked her the reason, "Why did you put salt in it?" She said, "The sugar was finished," and then left. Her friend said, "Xing Yun is a little disturbed because of work. That's why she's doing this." In the next scene, Xing Yun was leaving, so Xiao said to her, "Get in the car." She refused and took the bus. He followed her to make sure she reached home safely. She fell asleep on the bus. Her stop arrived, so Xiao called and woke her up. "Your stop has arrived." She said, "Even this late at night, you only care about work," and then called him heartless. In the next scene, Xiao called Xing Yun and said, "You have to research the game." Now he made her practice a shooting game. She couldn't play properly, so she said, "Most users of this game are male, so a male should use this ID." He said, "The problem is not with gender, but with your IQ." He told her to practice the game daily. In the next scene, Xiao gave a treat to all the employees. Xing Yun's friend asked, "What is he giving a treat for?" He said, "This was someone else's idea." Now everyone thought that Xing Yun had asked Xiao to give the treat, so they all started thanking her. When everyone was leaving, Xiao said to Xing Yun, "My driver hasn't arrived yet, you can walk with me." She thanked him for today's treat. The driver arrived, so Xiao dropped her home. On the way, her mom called and asked, "How is your relationship with Chunan going?" She lied, "I'm with Chunan right now." He asked her, "Why haven't you told your family about the breakup?" She said, "I don't want to trouble them more." So he said, "So you were taking out all your anger on me?" She said, "It's not like that." Now, Xiao got angry and dropped her off in the middle of the road. In the next scene, Xiao let Xing Yun go home early. Just then, her cousin came and started consoling her. She had found out about her breakup. She told her, "Don't overreact, you're not even sad." She said, "I won't hide my pain." She asked her not to tell her parents about this. After this, she took her to a club where she got drunk and fell asleep. When she woke up, she started looking for her cousin. There, she met Xiao. He asked her to sing with him. She misunderstood him and hit him with a bottle before running away. He called Xiao and said, "Because of your employee, my head is busted, so you have to take responsibility for this." In the next scene, she returned to the office. Now, she felt hungry. She had left her phone somewhere, so she looked around for something to eat. She found a pancake on her desk. She thought it was a coincidence because Xiao had arrived early because of her. In the next scene, in the meeting, Xing Yun was sleeping. So Xiao asked her, "Didn't you sleep at night?" She didn't say anything, so he said, "Sleep on the sofa." So she slept on the sofa. In her sleep, Xing Yun was mentioning food, so Xiao heard it and ordered everything. She woke up because of the smell of food. She asked him, "Are you going to eat all this alone?" He said, "I ordered food for you too." She told him about yesterday. Yesterday, someone was about to kidnap me again. He took her along to meet a client. Yes, it was Xiao. She recognized him upon seeing him. So Xiao said, "He is the one we had a meeting with." She started leaving, so he said to her, "Apologize to Xiao." Xiao said, "What did you think I was when you hit me yesterday?" She said, "I thought you were a kidnapper." So he said, "Do I look like a kidnapper to you?" She apologized and said, "I'll pay your hospital bill." He said, "Because of this injury, I won't be able to get married next month." In the next scene, they believed it to be true. So Xiao said, "He is a big player and no one will marry him. He shouldn't worry. His injury isn't that serious either." Now, he handed her her phone. She saw calls from her parents on it and called them back. They told her, "Come home." Now that she had come home, her parents had found out about her breakup with Chunan, so they were worried about her. In the next scene, Xing Yun saw a man at the office and thought she had a meeting with him, so she went with him to a cafe. She was talking to him when Xiao saw her. He thought Xing Yun had come on a blind date. He went up to her and said, "Didn't you find anyone else that you came on a date with a man your dad's age?" She said, "You're misunderstanding." Mr. Lin said, "I have come to choose Xing Yun for my son." She asked him, "Wasn't I supposed to have a business meeting with you?" He said, "No." So Xiao asked, "Where did you get Xing Yun's information?" Then they realized that someone had posted Xing Yun's information. Now she apologized to Xiao. In the next scene, Xiao returned from the tour and came straight to the office. So Xing Yun told him about Yu. "He asked me to be his girlfriend. He's doing this to delay the project." Now Xiao told her, "Take your gift from the car." She went and saw that it was a cute cat. She became happy. In the next scene, flowers were sent in Xing Yun's name, but Xiao had them placed in his room. Xing Yun's friend said, "This time, he has become serious." So she said, "If Xiao hadn't stopped me, I would have thrown all his flowers in front of him." Yu sent a picture to Xing Yun, and she realized that she had blocked him. Now he told Xiao. Just then, Xing Yun also arrived at the office. So Xiao told her to go outside. Yu invited Xing Yun to lunch. So Xiao told her, "Have lunch with Yu." He told her, "I really like you." Xing Yun laughed. Now, Xiao was watching both of them from behind and whispered something to the waiter before leaving. When Yu asked for the bill, the waiter said, "Your ex has already paid your bill and she left a message that you should take your underwear from your house." Hearing this, Xing Yun smiled. In the next scene, Yu offered to help with Xing Yun's project and said, "Come with me." She went with Yu and started observing the couple's activity. Now Xiao had also arrived there. He saw Xing Yun with Yu, so he took her away from behind. When Yu turned around, she was no longer there. He asked her, "What were you doing with Yu?" She said, "I was with him because I was working on the project." Now Xiao took her to the best restaurant. The staff there mistook them for a couple, so Xiao also refused to correct them and acted like a couple. She said, "Is it necessary to act like a couple?" He said, "By acting like a couple, we'll be able to get a better reference." Now, after eating, she started writing the reference. She said, "This is a very romantic place, so it is number 1. He said, "There's an even better place." So she told him to say it, but he said, "I'm not in the mood." Then he dropped her home and said, "Next time, if you need any help, come to me." She agreed and left. In the next scene, Yu asked Xiao, "Do you like Xing Yun?" He said, "No." So Yu said, "Then why are you getting in my way?" Xiao said, "I don't want what happened to her with Chunan to happen to her again." Yu said, "Trust me." So Xiao said, "I can't trust you." In the next scene, Xiao changed Yu's assistant. Yu came to Xing Yun, so she told him, "From today, your assistant is Tina." Then he started talking to her. In the next scene, Xiao was getting angry in the meeting over small things. He told everyone, "If you don't complete your work, be ready to resign." Seeing his bad mood, Xing Yun made his favorite coffee and brought it to him. He started drinking the coffee, but Xing Yun was still standing there. So he asked, "Why are you still standing here?" She said, "Is something wrong? You look very stressed." He told her to mind her own work. So she said, "I only know that you look really bad, and a boss shouldn't be like this." He told her to leave from there. In the next scene, Xiao messaged Xing Yun and told her to pick him up. She arrived at the place, but the guard didn't let her go inside. She messaged him about it. Then she went inside and saw that Xiao was drunk, and it wasn't Xiao who had sent the message, but Yu. Seeing this, she started to leave. Yu stopped her and said, "I called you to help take Xiao home." Then she gave Xiao honey water, and along with Yu started taking him home. Now, after bringing him home, she covered him with a blanket. So Yu said, "Xing Yun, you've come here quite a lot, so you know everything about this place." She said, "I've come here many times for overtime." Now, she asked Yu, "Is this the first time Xiao has gotten this drunk? What exactly happened?" He said, "Lately, Xiao has been very stressed because Shen Qing's husband has come back." She asked him, "Do they have some kind of problem?" Yu didn't tell her at first, but then he told Xing Yun. 4 years ago, they had an argument about something. So they started a race fight, and in that race, Xiao's ride had an accident. Then, without telling anyone, he disappeared from the hospital and left divorce papers for Shen Qing. Shen Qing went against her grandmother and gave birth to her son. She said, then Xiao must be blaming himself for this. Now, a scene from the past was shown. Xiao came to pick up Yu and saw Shen Qing's husband with another woman, so he started following him. Seeing Xiao, he increased his car's speed, which led to his accident. In the present, Yu said, Jacquet's grandmother didn't want anyone to know that their granddaughter's husband was cheating on her, so she sent that woman away somewhere else. He also said, Jacquet didn't want Shenqing to find out about her husband's cheating, so he told his grandmother to separate Shenqing from her husband. Now, Shenqing believed that her husband's accident had happened because of Jacquet. Xing Yun asked, why didn't Jacquet tell Shenqing the truth about her husband? He said, he didn't want to hurt his sister because she loved her husband very much. He said, when Jacquet's grandmother went to give Shenqing the divorce papers and money, at first he acted innocent. But when the grandmother gave him more money, he silently left Shenqing's life. Now, Xing Yun said, Xiao is a very smart and loyal person. Just then, Xiao woke up and told Xing Yun to leave. Then he told Yu to leave with her as well, so Yu dropped her home. In the next scene, Xiao told Xing Yun to go to a martial arts school to bring a document. Now, the trainer there told Xing Yun to practice as well. So she said, I'm not good at sports. Then Xiao told the trainer, make Xing Yun practice. Xing Yun couldn't practice properly, so Xiao started training her himself. Later, Xing Yun asked him, are you going back to the company? He said, yes. So she said, then why did you ask me to bring the documents here? Xing Yun was repeatedly pressing her hands, so Xiao asked her, why are you pressing your hands again and again? She said, it's hurting because of the practice. Xiao didn't find an ice pack at the nearby stores, so he brought ice cream so that Xing Yun could place it on her hands. She started eating the ice cream, so Xiao said, do all women not listen to advice? She said, are you talking about Shenqing? So he said, you understand everything I say. Xing Yun told him, you can share your troubles with me. He said, some things become more painful after telling them, so it's better to keep them hidden. So she said, don't think about the consequences. Sometimes sharing is necessary. The next day, Xing Yun placed the lunch she brought in Xiao's office. Seeing this, he told a worker to put up a board outside so that Xing Yun wouldn't enter his office without permission. Seeing this, Xing Yun said, I had to wake up early to make lunch, and still Xiao is treating me like this. Xiao smiled. In the next scene, Yu called Xing Yun to the mall. Then they saw Shenqing's ex-husband outside a jewelry shop. She saw him buying a ring, so Yu bought a couple ring, put it on her, and also took a picture. When she saw it, she took off the ring. Now Shenqing's ex took her to Udai restaurant, where they had first proposed. They also followed them, but the staff didn't let them go inside. Now, Xing Yun called Chunan there, and then called Xiao telling him to come as well. Now Shenqing's ex proposed to her again. Just then, Xing Yun and Yu arrived there. She told Shenqing, go wait for Xiao. So her ex said, are you going to tear our family apart again because of Xiao? Xing Yun said, I didn't do anything like that. Then Shenqing said, I can't marry you again because I love Chunan. Chunan had already arrived there, so she hugged him. Xiao arrived there and was about to punch Chunan, thinking he was Shenqing's ex, but Xing Yun stopped him. Now he told Shenqing everything, so she hugged him and started crying. Yu had posted the ring photo, so Xing Yun told Xiao everything. Now, Xiao found out that Shenqing's ex had kidnapped her son, so he went after him and caught him. He said, my business had collapsed, so I wanted to get some money from his grandmother. So Xiao said, grandmother won't give you anything because of this child, because Shenqing went against her to give birth to him. Now, the police took him away. Xiao had an injury on his hand, so Xing Yun applied ointment to it. Then Xiao thanked Xing Yun for all this, and also asked, have you forgotten Chunan? She said, I never loved Chunan, so why would I remember him? Anyway, I just wanted to stop Shenqing from making the wrong decision. Now she said, you should have told Shenqing everything earlier. After this, Chunan proposed to Shenqing for marriage, and she agreed. In the next scene, Shenqing invited Xing Yun to her bakery and taught her how to make Xiao's favorite cake. So Xing Yun said, this cake is just like Xiao. Both of them have many secrets hidden inside. Now they were talking about Xiao when he arrived there. So Xing Yun went silent after seeing him. Shenqing said, you came on time. Xing Yun's cake is also ready. She was now doing the icing, so Xiao looked at her. Now, a past scene is shown when Xiao saw Xing Yun for the first time. When she had come to get a cat treated, he was impressed by her caring nature. That's why he had hired her. In the present, Xiao said to her, I can't believe that Xing Yun is making such a good cake. Now, seeing him up close, Xing Yun became nervous, and the cake fell from her hands. She said, I think this won't be good because I made it for the first time. So he said, you are absolutely right. She made an excuse to Shenqing and left. Xiao tasted the cake and said, it's not that bad. Now Shenqing said, if you like Xing Yun, then you shouldn't hide it. Xiao thought in his heart. What else can I even do? Shenqing said, if you agree with everything she says, then Xing Yun will definitely be impressed by you. Now, in the next scene, Xing Yun and Ha Yu came to give some things to Shenqing, so Xiao deliberately spilled a glass of water. Xing Yun asked him, are you okay? He said, my jacket got dirty, so can you get it washed and drop me home? She said, I'm not your servant, and then left. The next day, Xiao had placed breakfast on Xing Yun's desk, and seeing this, she was shocked. Ha Yu gave a necklace to Xing Yun, but she didn't take it. Xing Yun's classmate had invited her to a party, and her fiancé was also there. She told her, get my wedding invitations ready. Now, Ha Yu had come there for a meeting, so seeing Xing Yun, he said, what are you doing here after rejecting me? To make her friend jealous, Xing Yun told Ha Yu to put the necklace on her. Her friend said, this is quite expensive. Then she left with Ha Yu. So Ha Yu said, today you'll have to have dinner with me. Both of them went to dinner. Now, he accidentally told her, the day you were about to be kidnapped, Xiao had called you there by lying. Xing Yun got angry and started drinking. Chunan saw them and informed Xiao. Xing Yun went to the washroom, and at that time Xiao was calling her. Ha Yu turned off her mobile. Xiao arrived at the restaurant, and he heard some girls saying, a girl is very drunk in the washroom. Now he went to the washroom, and seeing him, Xing Yun started arguing. She told him to apologize, so he said, you should be the one to, because do you even know what you're saying? Someone came into the washroom, so Xiao moved Xing Yun to the side and then kissed her. Then he realized it and stopped. So Xing Yun got up and kissed him. Ha Yu also saw both of them like this. Now, Xiao saw Xing Yun's necklace and left from there. Ha Yu started taking Xing Yun away. The next day, Xing Yun asked her mother, who dropped me home last night? So she said, a boy named Ha Yu dropped you home. Now, as she was about to leave for the office, Ha Yu was standing outside. He asked her, did you forget last night? So she thought, did Ha Yu kiss me? Because Xiao couldn't have come there. Now, Ha Yu gave her a week to think. Now, she met Xiao, and he took her outside. He asked her, do you want to talk about something? She said, yesterday my friend kissed someone she doesn't like. She was talking about Ha Yu, but Xiao thought she was talking about him. He said, if she didn't like him, then why did she kiss him? She said, she was drunk and mistook him for someone else. She was talking about Xiao, but Xiao thought she was talking about Ha Yu. She asked, but my friend doesn't understand whom she likes? So Xiao said, the one she kissed should confess his feelings because that guy must like her too. Otherwise, he wouldn't have kissed her. She said, my friend needs some time to think. Now, on the day of the get-together, Ha Yu came to the market to meet Xing Yun and asked her to select a dress. He told her about the event, so she said, I don't know about this. Angrily, she wore the shirt Ha Yu had selected and came to the event. Seeing this, Xiao got upset. Her friend said, Xiao told us about this and asked us not to tell you. Now Ha Yu took Xing Yun outside without informing anyone. The sound of fireworks was heard, so everyone came outside. Xiao stopped Xing Yun from going outside and asked, why did you come here with Ha Yu? She said, why did you hide the event from me? So he said, Ha Yu is not a good person. They argued, and she angrily walked out. Outside, Ha Yu was waiting to propose to her. She started going home, so Ha Yu followed her and dropped her home. As she was about to go inside, Ha Yu said, today, a whole week has passed, so I came after you. She said, I'm not the right person to date. Holding her hand, he said, I want to date you, and if you try, you'll start liking me. So Xing Yun pulled her hand away, apologized, and said, when I kissed you, I was thinking about someone else. I don't like you. Then she left from there. In the next scene, Shenqing called Xing Yun and told her, Xiao is not feeling well, so can you go to his house? Chunan and I are busy, so she started going. Now, when she arrived at his house, she found out that Xiao had a fever. She placed an ice pack on his forehead and cooked food for him. When Xiao woke up, he was happy to see Xing Yun cooking. She asked, why are you standing there quietly? So he said, I didn't call you here, so what are you doing here? She said, if Shenqing hadn't requested, I wouldn't have come here. She asked him, why did you get so drunk? He wanted to say something but stayed silent. He said, if you have made a decision, you will regret it a lot. She didn't understand what he meant, so she said, if you are making a decision to take revenge on me, then don't do it. Now, he asked her about Ha Yu, so she said, Ha Yu is a good person, but I don't like him. So Xiao smiled and said, I have something to tell you. Xing Yun thought, is he going to remove me from the project because of what happened last night? He was about to confess to her, but he got a call from the company. Now, due to an emergency, both of them went to the office. Her friend said, the director has had Xing Yun's belongings placed in the conference room. Now, when she entered the conference room, the director said, Xing Yun is accused of leaking company secrets. Hearing this, she was shocked. After this, the director showed Xiao Xing Yun's phone. Now, Xiao said to Xing Yun, stay at home. You will continue to get your salary. Hearing this, she got angry. As he was about to give her the phone, the director said, "There's proof in it." So she left without taking the phone. After this, Xing Yun's friend told her, "Xiao is personally investigating the whole matter to prove that you are innocent." In the next scene, her friend said, "Xiao has said that the secret was not leaked because of Xing Yun. Whoever is behind this will be exposed soon." Shen Qing told Xing Yun, "Go and bring a parcel." Then Xiao also came to her and said, "I'll go with you." Now he asked how she was doing, so she said, "I'm getting a salary for free, so I'm enjoying it." He says, "I trust you. You will never leak the secret." He further says, "I suspended you so that the real culprit would think that no one suspects them. That way I can find out the truth." He asks, "Are you still angry with me?" She says, "Yes, because you didn't tell me about your plan." He says, "You didn't have a phone, so how could I have told you?" Now, they deliver the parcel, and on the way back, they start talking. After this, Xiao and Xing Yun see a company employee, Dum Dum, driving a car 2 kilometers away from the company. Xing Yun says, "If Dum Dum buys such an expensive car, he will tell everyone. If he is hiding it, there must be a reason." Xiao says, "We can't accuse Dum Dum without proof, so stop worrying and focus on eating." He orders an expensive dish for Xing Yun. She says, "Xiao has been changing a lot these days." He says, "I haven't changed. Our relationship has changed." Just then, Xing Yun gets a call from her mom, who tells her, "Ha Yu is here." Xiao also hears this. After this, Xiao drops her home. As Xing Yun says bye and starts leaving, he says, "Start preparing to come back. We'll talk about the rest after this problem is solved." Xing Yun smiles and leaves. Ha Yu also sees them. In the next scene, Xiao asks everyone to come to the office. He then tells Dum Dum, "I crashed into your car when I called the insurance company." Then he says, "You are the owner of this car, but someone else bought it, and that person is the boss of another company." Now Dum Dum admits his mistake. After this, Xing Yun is proven innocent and returns to work. Everyone welcomes her, and she finds a gift from Xiao on her desk. Xing Yun's mom tells her, "Xiao helped you, so take him lunch." During lunchtime, Xing Yun goes to give Xiao lunch and overhears the director talking to Xiao. The director says, "Xing Yun has no talent at all." Xiao replies, "You don't need to worry about my company's employees." Now, Xiao comes to Xing Yun and takes her out for lunch. He asks her to select from the menu. She says, "Whatever decision you have made must be the right one." He says, "Is selecting from the menu such a difficult task?" She says, "Talk about what you actually brought me here for." He says, "I do want to talk to you, but this isn't the right time." He asks her about her work. She says, "The investors are unhappy with the project delay. Will this affect the company?" He says, "I'll handle everything." In the next scene, the employees' salaries are delayed for some reason. Xing Yun overhears the manager saying, "Until Xiao fires Xing Yun, we won't invest." The next day, she submits her resignation to Xiao. Xiao does not accept it and says, "No matter what happens, I won't leave your side." The next day, Xiao comes to meet Xing Yun outside her house. As she starts going inside, Xiao stops her and asks, "Why are you behaving like this?" She says, "I don't want to work anymore." He says, "You shouldn't worry about my company." Now Ha Yu comes and says, "I am the reason Xing Yun is leaving her job. She is my girlfriend, so she won't work at Xiao's company anymore." Then he takes Xing Yun away. She asks him why he acted that way. He says, "Xiao would never let you resign, so I helped you." She says, "No matter what, you shouldn't have lied about being my boyfriend, because sooner or later, Xiao will find out the truth." He says, "Xiao won't believe us so easily. If you really want to resign, you'll have to perform well." In the next scene, Xiao asks Xing Yun, "Is this your final decision?" She says, "Yes, I love Ha Yu, and I want to leave my job for him." Xiao signs her resignation letter. Now, as she leaves, she starts crying but thinks, now all of Xiao's problems will be solved. After this, Xiao also terminates his contract with that manager. He says, "Now I will find new investors." After this, Xiao decides to shut down the game. All the employees ask him not to shut it down. He says, "I am doing all this with the future in mind, but whoever wants to leave can go." He tells Xing Yun's friends not to inform her about this. In the next scene, it is Ha Yu's birthday. He brings her to his house. She is shocked to see his house. He says, "My dad gifted this to me." After this, he asks Xing Yun for his gift. She gives him a cake she made, which happens to be Xiao's favorite. Just then, Xiao also arrives there. Now the two of them start preparing food. He asks her, "Are you learning to cook to become a housewife? Because she has improved a lot." She says, "I am making good use of my free time." Now during dinner, Xiao stops Xing Yun from drinking wine and says, "Last time you got so drunk." She gets confused. Then Ha Yu asks everyone to taste the cake. After this, they all go to the park to take a ride. Xiao quickly takes Xing Yun inside. Hayu calls both of them, but neither of them answers. Now, at a high point, Xiao kisses Xing Yun. She finds the feeling familiar, so she kisses him back. After getting off the ride, she asks Xiao, "Was it you with me that day?" Before he can say anything, Hayu arrives there, so Xiao leaves. After this, Xing Yun finds out about Xiao's company. She quickly goes to the company and asks Xiao, "Why didn't you tell me all this? Why couldn't we have solved this problem together?" He says, "Do you want to work at the company again?" Xiao makes her leave the office and says, "Why don't you call Hayu and ask him to pick you up?" She says, "Hayu is not my boyfriend. I lied about it to resign because I thought that after I left, all your problems would be solved." He says, "This month I left home 3 times to come to the company, but on the way I remembered my resignation. From that, you can guess how much I missed my company, and especially how much I missed you." Now, Xiao smiles. In the next scene, Xing Yun comes to the office. She sees a cat toy on Xiao's desk, which makes her happy, and she leaves his coffee there before going. When Xiao returns from a meeting, Xing Yun asks him, "Why didn't you find another investor for the company?" He says, "Don't worry about the investment and focus on the project." He starts talking about what happened yesterday, but Xing Yun stops him. "Right now, we need to save the company. Everything else can wait." As she leaves, she says, "Now that the company's lucky charm is back, everything will be fine." He says, "I never liked anyone calling me a lucky charm." She says, "That was in the past. Now I will definitely spread my luck in the company." In the next scene, Xing Yun sees Xiao brushing his teeth in the office and thinks, could he be sleeping in the office? In the next scene, Xiao falls asleep in the office while working. When Xing Yun arrives in the morning and sees Xiao sleeping, she thinks, did he get kicked out of his house, which is why he is staying at the office? Now she sees Xiao talking to someone. While talking to him, she asks, "Are you selling your house?" In the next scene, Xing Yun says to Xiao, "Drop me home." Then she grabs his hand and takes him upstairs. He says, "I didn't know I had to get married so soon." She says, "You overthink too much." She takes him to the house next to hers. She says, "I know you sold your house." He says, "Are you asking me to buy this house?" She says, "The landlord of this house is gone for a few months, so you can stay here." He says, "How will I clean the house?" She says, "I will do it." Now she gives him the house keys and leaves. Now Xing Yun's mother sees her coming from the house next door, so she tells her mother everything and says, "Xiao has always helped me, so I want to help him too." She tells her mother, "Don't tell dad about this." The next day, her mother makes breakfast for Xiao, so Xing Yun lies to her dad saying, "I am taking breakfast for my friends," and leaves. She knocks on Xiao's door. Her dad thinks someone is knocking on their door. He comes to the door, but no one is there. Xing Yun's mother brings him inside. Xiao opens the door and sees Xing Yun's mother. She says hi to him. Just then, Xing Yun, who was hiding behind the door, comes out. He asks, "Do you live in the house next door?" She says, "Yes." She tells him to be careful. "If your father sees you, it will be a problem." He asks, "What does your father look like?" So Xing Yun shows him a family photo. He says, "Send me the picture. If I forget his face, I'll look at it." So Xing Yun sends him the picture. Then she makes Xiao have breakfast. After this, Shenqing comes to Xiao during lunchtime. So they go out to have lunch together. She says, "Seeing you with Xing Yun has eased my worries." She asks him, "Are you two dating now?" He denies it and says, "Right now, saving the company is more important." Later, Shenqing asks Xiao, "Why haven't you confessed to Xing Yun yet?" He says, "Xing Yun has always done things her way. Now I want to do things her way." In the next scene, Xing Yun and Xiao are coming home when Xing Yun's dad opens the door. So she quickly pushes Xiao aside and goes inside the house, and Xiao enters his house. After this, Xing Yun's mother asks her, "What are you making for Xiao?" She says, "Why do you care so much about Xiao?" Her mother says, "I saw Xiao. He is very handsome. Have you confessed your feelings?" She says, "Right now, we have to save the company, so don't talk about such things." After this, her mother tells Xing Yun to water the plants on the balcony. So she goes to the balcony. Seeing Xiao on the balcony, she says, "Before, I thought having connected balconies was quite romantic. In winter, the wind here is too strong, and in summer, there are too many mosquitoes." He says, "Why didn't you tell me before?" She asks, "Did the mosquitoes bite you?" He says, "Yes." So Xing Yun holds his hand and starts rubbing it. When she learns about the investment, she says, "We will work hard to make this project better so that the investment doesn't go to waste." He stops her and says, "I'm going to work overtime, so will you work overtime with me?" Xing Yun's mother calls her inside, so she leaves. Seeing Xing Yun's father take packed food with him every day makes him suspicious. One day he follows her and sees her going to Xiao's house. He knocks on the door, so Xing Yun's mother takes him away from there. Xiao opens the door, but no one is there. Now both of them are discussing the project. He asks Xing Yun, "Did you feel romantic?" She starts talking about work, so he says to her, "Answer me." She says, "Right now, I don't have time to think about anything other than work." He says, "I will solve this problem soon. I don't want to leave our relationship to fate." He asks her, "Do you really like me?" She says, "Even if I can't help you much, I want to support you so that you can be like before. So we can talk about this later." He says, "What if I find someone else?" She says, "Then I won't stay in the company just to watch your happy life." He says, "I can't wait anymore." So Xing Yun says, "I like it this way because I have experience in a boss-employee relationship, but I have no experience in a relationship at all." He says, "Come on, we'll learn to maintain this relationship together." He says to her, "I can still wait for you." Now Xing Yun kisses him, and Xiao kisses her back. Someone knocks outside, so Xiao opens the door. Shenqing arrives. He says, "You came at a really bad time." She says, "I won the bet against Chun Nan, so I'm inviting everyone to celebrate." Now they all drink together. Xing Yun quietly comes home, so her dad sees her and says, "If you had been a little later, I would have had to go there." That night, she sees Xiao in her dream. The next day, Xiao goes jogging, so she also comes there and gives him a drink. He asks her, "What are you going to do tomorrow?" She says, "I'll go shopping with my friend." He says, "I've become lazier because of the break, so I keep going shopping." She says, "Since we haven't found an investor yet, our working speed is slowed down. Once we get an investor, we'll work at double speed." She asks him, "So what are you going to do tomorrow?" He says, "I have a meeting." He says to Xing Yun, "Bring a tie for me." In the next scene, Xing Yun has to leave the city for a meeting. Just then, she remembers Xiao's tie. The market is 2 hours away from here. Now she quickly starts leaving and then calls Shenqing to ask about Xiao's favorite color. Shenqing asks, "Why are you going shopping so late?" She says, "Xiao asked me to bring something for the first time, so I'm a little nervous." Now Shenqing asks Xiao, "Why did you ask her to bring a tie?" He says, "I just wanted to check if she actually goes shopping or not." Shenqing says, "It's about to rain, so you should go to Xing Yun." Now he immediately starts going. When he gets there, he asks her, "What are you doing here so late?" She says, "I lost track of time while shopping." He puts his jacket on her and then lifts her on his back. Xing Yun starts smiling. She says, "Last time when you carried me like this, it was also raining." He says, "You once said you don't like rich people, so do you like me now?" She says, "Before, when you were rich, it was hard to approach you, but now it isn't. But I don't want to always see you like this. I can't see you in any kind of problem." Now Xiao apologizes to her. "Before, I didn't care about people much and only thought I was right, but now I will make myself better than before." In the next scene, Xiao comes to the office and everyone surprises him because it's the company's anniversary. Xiao feels very happy. Later, Xing Yun asks him, "Did you like everything?" He says, "You didn't need to do all this. You being with me is enough for me." After this, both of them go home. Xiao asks her, "Did you not tell everyone that you had nothing in UA?" She says, "I haven't been able to tell them yet." He says, "Won't you tell everyone about our relationship?" She says, "Dating colleagues is a sensitive matter. If I tell one person, everyone will find out." Then she says, "You are the boss of the company, so would you want people discussing your love life? And if we break up, what will happen?" Hearing this, Xiao stops the car and asks, "Are you going to break up with me?" She says, "I was just saying it like that." He says, "Get the thought of breaking up out of your mind." Just then, Yu calls Xing Yun. Xiao answers the call, puts it on speaker, and asks, "Why are you calling my girlfriend at this time?" Yu says, "I need her help, so can she come meet me tomorrow?" She tells him to send the address and quickly ends the call. Xiao asks her, "Are you really going to meet him?" She says, "Yu has helped me a lot, so I will go." In the next scene, Xiao is waiting outside Xing Yun's house. Just then, her mom sees him and asks, "What are you doing here?" He says, "Exercise." Then she goes inside. Now Xiao sees Xing Yun coming with Yu and hides. Xing Yun thanks Yu and leaves. Seeing Xiao there, she asks, "Were you waiting for me?" He says, "Did Yu give you a gift again?" She says, "Yui, there's nothing like that, so don't be jealous. Yu wanted to make you jealous." Then she kisses Xiao and says, "I knew you were waiting for me." In the next scene, Xiao is about to leave for a business tour. So Xing Yun says to him, "Take care of yourself." He says to her, "I'll message you as soon as I arrive." Then he hugs Xing Yun, kisses her forehead, and leaves. Now his meeting goes very well. They really like Xiao's game. Xing Yun decorates Xiao's house with pink because he had lied to her that he had sold the house. She also tells her friends about her relationship. Xiao calls Xing Yun. She finds out that his meeting went well. She asks him, "Did you get a pet cat?" He says, "Look at yourself in the mirror and you'll find out." She says, "Don't joke around." In the next scene, Xiao sends a voice message to Xing Yun. "I'm coming back." Mr. Qing says, "You are completely under your girlfriend's control." Xiao says, "After getting out of this problem, I'm going to propose to Xing Yun." Now he returns to China with Mr. Qing. Xing Yun is waiting for Xiao outside the airport. He surprises her from behind, so she hugs him. He says to her, "Tell me about the past few days." She starts talking about the company. He says, "I don't want to hear about the company, I want to hear about you." So she says, "My days pass normally." Now he comes to the office and everyone welcomes him. After this he says, "Mr. Qing's team will tour here, so everyone finish your work." Seeing Xiao speaking gently, Xing Yun's friend says, "Xiao has changed because of Xing Yun." He asks her, "Did you tell them?" She answers yes. He says, "You did a great job telling them." After this, Xiao gets ready to go home. So Xing Yun asks him, "Do you have to stay somewhere else for a few days?" Now he says goodbye and comes to his apartment. In the next scene, Xiao looks at his apartment and immediately understands that Xing Yun did this. Just then, Xing Yun comes up behind him and says, "If you had a place to stay, why did you lie?" He says, "I never said it, but I didn't have a place." She says, "You also didn't clear my misunderstanding." He says, "I wanted to stay close to you. That's why I did this." She says, "Because of your lie, I had to work so hard." Now Xiao says to Xing Yun, "Make the house the way it was before." She says, "For that, you have to do something. You have to wear a pink shirt, sit on the bed, and get a photo clicked." Xing Yun posts the photo. Everyone is shocked to see it. In the next scene, Xing Yun picks up Zhang Sirui from the airport. Zhang Sirui asks her, "Is Xiao single?" She says, "Does this question have any link to the investment?" Zhang Sirui says, "If he is dating, he won't be able to focus on the project." Xing Yun lies, "Xiao is single." After this, Xiao says to Xing Yun, "Will you stay with me?" At first she refuses. Then she says, "All right, I can stay in the guest room." After this, Xing Yun's father calls her and asks, "Are you in the house next door?" She denies it. Now Xiao kisses Xing Yun and asks, "How was your day?" She tells him about Zhang Sirui. The next day, Zhang Sirui comes to the company and hugs Xiao. He asks her, "What are you doing here?" She says, "Mr. Qing called me for this project." Now Zhang Sirui says to him, "I know that you are single." He says, "The one who picked you up from the airport is my girlfriend." After this, Director Lee says to Emmy, "Help Zhang Sirui." Emmy says, "I understand what Xing Yun is saying, so she should assist me." Xing Yun agrees. After this, Zhang Sirui treats everyone and says to Xiao, "This place feels like my school." Everyone asks, "Were you two schoolmates?" She answers yes. She says to Xiao, "I brought sleeping drops for you." He says, "There's no need for this." Just then the lights go out. Zhang Sirui sits on Xiao's lap. Seeing this, Xing Yun walks out. Then, after her friend explains, she comes back. Xiao takes her outside. She says, "Why didn't you tell me that Zhang Sirui was your classmate?" He says, "Are you jealous?" She denies it. He says, "She herself sat on my lap." She says, "I trust you." In the next scene, Shen Qing brings lunch for Xiao and says to Xing Yun, "This is Xiao's favorite." While playing, Xing Yun starts eating it herself. Xiao holds her hand and puts the food in his mouth, then smiles. In the next scene, Xing Yun gives a suggestion. "We should make the game in such a way that couples can also play it." Everyone likes the idea. Zhang Sirui goes to Xiao's grandmother and introduces herself. The grandmother says, "Meeting me isn't without a reason." She says, "I broke up with Xiao for his own good. I had a disease that was worsening my condition. That's why I left Xiao and went for treatment." The grandmother says, "Why didn't you tell Xiao?" She says, "I was angry at him, so I couldn't trust what he said." She says, "If you help me, I will also help you bring Xiao back into the family." The next day, Zhang Sirui goes shopping and says to Xing Yun, "I am buying a gift for Xiao's grandmother." In the next scene, Xiao is teaching Xing Yun in front of everyone. Just then, Zhang Sirui arrives. Xiao leaves from there. In the next scene, Zhang Sirui apologizes to Xiao and says, "Introduce me to your pet dog." Xing Yun sees them. Xiao brings his pet dog from the pet house, along with Zhang Sirui. Seeing this, Xing Yun comes there and pulls Xiao out of the car. Then she herself starts driving Zhang Sirui's car. In the next scene, Xiao comes into Xing Yun's room. She asks him, "What are you doing here?" He says, "I didn't want you to overthink that matter, so I didn't tell you. I accept my mistake." She asks, "How did you impress my father?" He tells her everything. She smiles. He tells her everything about Zhang Sirui. She says, "Promise me that you won't hide anything from me in the future." Xiao promises. In the next scene, everyone is at Hayu's house. Xiao comes to get barbecue supplies and kisses Xing Yun on the cheek before leaving. Everyone enjoys themselves. In the next scene, a party scene is shown. Xiao's grandmother was not invited, but she arrives on her own. Mr. Xu says to her, "I won't be able to handle the company for much longer. My grandchildren are not interested in my business." Just then, Xiao arrives and says, "Why am I not interested in my family business?" Now Jiangxi Rui messages Xing Yun and tells her, "Xiao is drunk." The grandmother says to Xiao, "I didn't know you were going to come here." Now Xing Yun also arrives there. Xiao starts walking toward her, but Jiangxi Rui bumps into him and kisses him. Xiao says to Xing Yun, "Don't misunderstand." She says, "That wasn't a kiss." Then she kisses Xiao in front of everyone. A man says, "How can she do that in front of everyone?" She says, "I am kissing my boyfriend." Jiangxi Rui becomes sad. Xing Yun says to Xiao, "Jiangxi Rui bumped into you on purpose." He says, "I don't know, but this worked in my favor." Now Xiao's grandmother faints. Xiao takes her to the hospital. Xing Yun goes back. The next day, it is Xing Yun's birthday. Her parents give her gifts. Xiao calls her. She asks him, "How is your grandmother's health?" He asks her to have lunch with him. She reaches the restaurant. Reporters also arrive there. Xiao calls Xing Yun and says, "The plan has to be canceled." Xing Yun is in the house next door when she receives Xiao's gift. She becomes happy seeing it. In the next scene, the director says to Xiao, "Sign some documents." Now Xing Yun goes to the hospital. The guards do not let her enter. Just then, Xiao arrives there. All the reporters surround him. Xing Yun is about to fall, so Xiao saves her. She says, "Sign the documents." Then she gives him some medicine that he had forgotten in the office. In the next scene, Xiao calls Xing Yun and asks, "Where are you?" She says, "In the elevator." Just then, the call gets disconnected. Xiao waits outside the elevator. As soon as the elevator opens, he sees Xing Yun unconscious. Xiao takes her to the hospital. The doctor says, Xing Yun fainted due to overworking. In the next scene, the grandmother regains consciousness, and Shen Qing will now handle the business. In the next scene, Xiao signs a contract with Mr. Qing. He asks Xing Yun, "Are you feeling better now?" She says, "Yes." He says, "Take care of yourself." After this, Xing Yun becomes sad and starts drinking. Just then, Jiangxi Rui arrives and says, "I am Xiao's pet. I will never let you become family." So she says to Jiangxi Rui, "I am not like you, and pets are always loyal to their owners." Now Xing Yun is about to fall, so Xiao catches her and says to Jiangxi Rui, "Stay away from my fiancé." Then he takes her away. The next day, Xiao asks Xing Yun to have lunch with him, but she goes to lunch with her friends instead. In the next scene, Xiao calls Xing Yun to the restaurant with an excuse and proposes to her. In the next scene, Shen Qing says to Xiao, "Xing Yun wants you to share everything with her." After this, Xiao starts telling Xing Yun even the smallest things, which makes Xing Yun confused, thinking, "What's wrong with him?" Just then, her dad tells her, Xiao has bought the house next door. She goes to the house next door and finds Xiao's pad, which has photos of Xing Yun in it. She smiles while looking at them. Just then, Xiao arrives. He says, "I bought this house because we have so many memories here." Xing Yun smiles. Xiao's company's game is released and becomes popular. In the next scene, Xiao and Xing Yun are both practicing. She asks him, "How much do you love me?" He says, "No one in this world can separate you from me." Xing Yun smiles. In the next scene, Xiao is in a wedding suit. Just then, Xing Yun arrives with her dad. Her dad places her hand in Xiao's hand. Then they exchange rings and kiss. He says to Xing Yun, "Just like every game unlocks a new story after each level, you will start a new story with me." She smiles and says, "Yes." In the next scene, Xing Yun is angry at Xiao. Since their wedding, Xiao has not let her go to the guest room, so he gives her the keys. Xing Yun goes inside. The room is filled with children's things. He says, "I have prepared this room for our children." She says, "I thought you wouldn't want a child this soon." Now Xiao lifts her in his arms and takes her away, and this is where the drama ends. How much rating would you give this drama, and which was your favorite scene? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the videos.